Dying for a Paycheck: How Modern Management Harms Employee Health and Company Performance, and What We Can Do About It. Jeffrey Pfeffer, HarperCollins USA, 2018. Many useful tips to understand exactly how stress in the workplace negatively influences our society. Analyze the principal causes of stress at work and in toxic environments. Create hypotheses for an alternative approach where well-being at work is just as important as financial results. The author. Jeffrey Pfeffer is an American business expert and a professor of organizational behavior at Stanford University. He is considered one of the most important and influential figures in the field of management, and for years he conducted in-depth studies in the areas of behavior and management. He has written hundreds of articles and more than a dozen books on the subject, among which are The Human Equation, Managing with Power, Hidden Value, and Leadership BS. Why Stress is Often Synonymous with Work. The world of work that we live in seems to be guided by a fundamental principle, which is to maximize productivity and earnings. We are surrounded by methods whose aim is to obtain maximum results with minimum effort and minimum investment. One of the consequences of this type of mentality is the creation of toxic environments in which everyone, from employees to managers, is constantly under very high levels of stress and discontent. A stressful workplace, deadlines which are impossible to meet, and too much overtime are just some of the factors that contribute to making our work not only unbearable but even dangerous. Depression, suicide, and heart attacks are just some of the results on the long list of consequences. Studies show that the effects of stress on people are numerous, and we know all too well the consequences for people that live in stressful environments over long periods. The thing that we might have perhaps underestimated is the enormous impact that stress has on society as a whole, as well as within a company. But it doesn't have to be this way. It is possible to imagine a world where work doesn't cause stress and illness. But the creation of such a situation would require collective action, so that work would no longer be something that we risk dying for. The way in which the working world negatively influences our health. A good place to start, if we want to find a solution to stress at work, is to do a careful analysis of exactly what causes it. There are 10 main factors that contribute to what we define as job stress. 1. Unemployment, not having a job, and the financial security that comes with it, is one of the major sources of dejection and depression. 2. Not having medical insurance, above all in the United States, where healthcare is private and many employees' healthcare is provided by their employer. 3. Shift work. The lack of routine makes it harder to find a balance between work and private life. 4. Overtime. Working more than 40 hours a week can make people more tired, thus increasing their stress levels. 5. Lack of job security. For example, working for a company that has recently downsized and had to lay people off. This can leave us feeling uncertain about the security of our position at work. 6. Work-family conflict. When your work commitments get in the way of you fully enjoying family life, you feel discontent. 7. Lack of freedom. This includes not having much say in the work that you do and little control in the working environment as a whole. 8. Tough work requirements. Pressure to increase productivity leads to increased stress levels. 9. Low level of social interaction. When we cannot socialize with our colleagues, we tend to feel more alienated and disconnected. 10. Working in an unfair environment. Undeserved promotions or people getting preferential treatment leaves us with an extremely negative view of our workplace. Why firing people comes with several types of collateral damage. A strategy that lots of companies adopt during hard times is that of reducing personnel. Obviously, the immediate impact is on the people that lose their jobs and with that, their financial stability. But the negative effects don't stop there. The uncertain climate that is created within the company has profound repercussions on the morale of the people that continue to work there. Consequently, morale drops and this leads directly to a drop in productivity. Letting people go can often lead to unexpected expenses for a company. Just count up the severance packages and redundance pay, which in the case of group redundancies can lead to serious amounts of money. There is also the risk of legal fees linked to multiple legal claims and court cases brought by former employees. As though this were not enough, let's not forget to mention that in the vast majority of cases, the crisis is not caused by overspending on the workforce, but by overspending in other areas. Layoffs are simply palliative and offer a temporary solution, since they do not deal with the problem at source. A side note on health insurance. In some countries, such as the USA, healthcare is private. This means that without a healthcare insurance policy to cover your medical expenses, you are literally at risk of not having access to treatment. In these markets, it is usual practice for employers to provide insurance cover for their employees and their families. This means that not only is a worker's health in the hands of their employers, but also that the personnel represent a real cost to companies. It is also true that, in recent years, the cover which companies offer employees is much less comprehensive than individual private healthcare insurance, and is in drastic decline. However, several studies show that this is a double-edged sword. Even though they incur a lower direct expenditure, companies that adopt this practice record big drops in employee involvement, with consequent reduction in productivity and revenue. Why little extras are not enough to fix the general discontent. Many companies have adopted a very common practice used in Silicon Valley, which is to offer little perks that should, in theory, make the workplace more welcoming and less stressful. So in big companies, we often see a whole host of additional services such as gyms, good quality coffee, gourmet restaurants, and even playrooms. Of course, working in a more relaxed environment can certainly help make the day less stressful, providing moments of leisure during which we can relax with our colleagues and shake off some built-up tension. The problem is that often these perks are almost used as justification for abnormal work requests, such as overtime, long working hours, and other kinds of sacrifices on the part of employees. Several studies show that one of the factors most negatively affecting our work experiences that we have at work is linked to our sense of independence and freedom to organize our work and manage our time while pursuing our own goals. Why we can no longer go on like this. The problems that we have identified show no signs of decreasing. In fact, they are actually on the rise. Companies find themselves operating in more and more competitive markets and in ever more precarious financial situations. On the other hand, investors and shareholders have ever-increasing demands. This is why companies find themselves having to adopt methods whose primary objective is to grow profits, even in the most challenging situations. What this means, in practical terms, is a heavier workload for employees at all levels, with cascading consequences that inevitably end up compounding stress levels and discontentment. What we can do to change things. The situation cannot and should not carry on like this. The consequences that these situations have at a social level are unacceptable, and we need to make moves to change them. A change of this magnitude requires enormous effort. This is why it is important to fully understand the steps that need to be taken. 1. We need to begin to measure both the physical and mental health of our employees, and the results must be considered to be as important as other types of industrial operations fallout, such as emissions and pollution. 2. We need to begin to identify and publicly label companies that adopt and encourage practices which ignore employees' health, so that we can use social pressure to push them to change. 3. Governments and authorities need to make moves to implement norms and rules in order to regulate these aspects of working life, encouraging and promoting the adoption of strategies aimed at reducing employees' ill health, and sanctioning those who continue to promote toxic work environments. 4. Be prepared for the excuses and justifications that employers will come up with who refuse to change either their attitudes or their practices. This is not a problem that just affects a certain company or a particular sector. It is a widespread phenomenon and must be fought on all fronts. 5. Finally, we need to form a new managerial class that stops putting profit before everything else at the cost of people's health. As long as leaders are only being rewarded for company profits, toxic work environments will continue to be a common problem. Quotes: "The consequences of workplace stress cut across countries, specific jobs, and organizational levels. There is countless evidence of the negative effect that lack of job security can have on people's health and well-being. In the end, I would like to think that the importance of people's health and well-being takes priority over money." Take-home message: stress in the workplace is one of the biggest causes of death worldwide. It doesn't have to be this way. For too long, we have accepted and condoned tension, uncertainty, pressure, and even exhaustion as things which are absolutely normal, when in fact they most certainly are not. Various studies have shown how stress, caused by toxic working environments, not only has a direct effect on employees, but also on society as a whole, and even on the companies who themselves cultivate such environments. To change things, we need to begin to identify this behavior and to condemn it, so as to finally promote a culture in which we do not have to risk our lives for a job.